Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast of St. Lear 13 as we're preparing to get underway here for XRL X3 at the Palace of Speed here in Italy. It is Monza, one of the few tracks with so many straightaways you can actually make significant overtakes just with having significant wing setup differences. We're going to get underway with qualifying very shortly here. But the first thing that we're going to have to talk about before we get too into it, for the first time in a long time, XRL X3 is going to have a completely full grid. So 20 drivers will be taking to the track here in the first round of qualifying. Also of note, only one qualifying ban. Mantic Meerkat is serving a qualifying ban after an instance from last week's race, so he will have to start in the back. We're anticipating Herbago will walk away at the pole though, so it'll be interesting because we'll really get to see what the McLaren's top speed advantage is really like compared to the rest of the field. We will go over the point standings again a little bit later, so that will also be something of note going forward. There we are. Now everyone's starting to ready up. Alright, so Monza is a roughly 3.6 mile road course, noted for having 3 significant long straightaways. 2 of them are powered with DRS here. Also, numerous amounts of different kinds of chicanes around the circuit. Of note, you have the Prima Variante, which is the turn 1 chicane. That used to actually be 2 small, distinct chicanes back in the 80s and 90s, but then the early 2000s it got turned into the one that we're familiar with now. Then you complete the curve Biasano and enter the second Variante. Second Variante is basically a pair of near 90-degree corners. After that, you get into the Lesmos, which is at the top of the circuit. After that, you get onto the Sirago straightaway. There is technically a corner there, but it's so minor that it really doesn't even come into any sort of calculations. Afterwards, it's Variante Ascari. Variante Ascari, also just known as just Ascari, is one of the most difficult corners in the entirety of F1. Not because the corner in itself is difficult, but because the rest of the track is so straightaway focused that traditionally you want to have really, really low downforce. But Ascari is such an extreme downforce sensitive corner, it's very easy to get turned around or end up in a wall, navigate any of the corners through there. Then after that, you come onto the final back straightaway into the Curva Parabolica. Parabolica is another downforce sensitive curve. However, due to the width of the track at Parabolica, it's typically not too much of a problem. First driver to get onto the track in this first section of the day is going to be Plastic Love. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, take note of the tires. Update that came about a month ago made it to where drivers now have a set of mediums and a set of hards that they can go ahead and utilize in qualifying. So don't be surprised if some of the properly fast drivers go ahead and turn a lap on mediums or hards here in Q1, so that way they're saving tires for Q2 and Q3. But with 19 drivers, because Meerkat's not going to be saving the time due to his qualifying ban, but with 19 drivers fighting for 15 spots, it's going to be very interesting going forward here. There is a chance of rain, but the chance is below 15% throughout the majority of qualifying and the race, which I'm sure a lot of drivers will be very happy to hear after the mess that was last week's race in the rain at Zandvoort. Although, credit to the field, we still had about a dozen drivers finishing a race in the rain at Zandvoort, one of the most difficult tracks on the calendar, so it could be a lot worse. but still, I'm sure everyone would absolutely love to see a proper dry race today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take note of Collie Boy here. The Alfa Romeo team, Collie Boy and XRL Dave, have been putting on some incredible runs in qualifying, and then finally have been able to start backing it up. They had a great finish at Spa 3 weeks ago, actually, because we had an off week. I forgot about that. Can they continue to back it up? Flying down the main straightaway and into the first chicane. What's their top speed? 217 miles an hour for Collie Boy before getting onto the brakes. That is a Red Bull that has gone around, and I believe that is paging Dr. Phil, who goes off circuit at the very start of his outlap. Again, well over 200 before getting to the second chicane, and now through the top of the circuit. Power on, and this is a DRS straightaway. Already well over 205, over 210 miles an hour. It is 2:14 at the end of the second DRS straight. Plastic Love says the time everyone will go for, 1:21.825, and Collie Boy goes around. He's not the only one, though. That's an Aston Martin that's also gone around as well. I believe that was Higgs Boston. No, that's not Higgs Boston. Is that Mercedes AMG? Yes, Mercedes AMG also had a spin in the middle of his lap as well. And therein lies the circumstances. It is very, very difficult to get a proper clean lap down because Ascari and to a lesser extent Parabolica are very, very difficult downforce focused corners, but typically you want to rip off as much downforce as you can to be nice and fast in the straightaways here. Fratters and the Mercedes is on an outlap right now. Agony and Dragonborn finishing up laps themselves. Dragonborn qualified third last week, but took home the victory after the drivers who were ahead of him kind of got compromised. Most notably, Herbago, who was second in the championship, crashed out after an early race restart. And Dragonborn 143.094, not a great initial lap to say the least. And there is another driver who's had an incident coming out of Ascari, and that is Plastic Love on his cooldown lap. He's still on the top, though, 121.825. Herbago is only set at 36.829, so Herbago has most definitely struggled to get a proper lap in here. And Eggity, who has set his time on the medium tires with a 25.041, looks a lot better than he may actually be. XRL Dave now beginning to come back out onto the circuit here. As Mercedes finally puts the proper time down, 24.002, Herbago comes into the pits now. XRL Dave on an out lap, but this is Fratters who's about to finish his lap. He'll be the 9th driver to set a time in this session. A little bit of confusion in the AlphaTauri camp. They can't figure out if they want to run softs or mediums. Fratters goes 4th fastest, 122.051. And coming out of pit lane is paging Dr. Phil and XRL Dave. Dragonborn now goes to the top, 121.538. Paging Dr. Phil, another one of the drivers who qualified extremely well last week and honestly had a great run going, but on a restart made contact and wrecked himself and his teammate. Now both of the Red Bulls were able, and that's an Alpine that's around right in front of him. Which Alpine was that? Was that Boothie? Yes, it was Boothie who has had an incident at the top of the circuit. He's back underway now, but with no front wing, it's going to be frustrating for him to get back to the line in time. But we're going to go ahead and spin the lap on board with the Red Bull of paging Dr. Phil and see what a flying lap looks like from a driver who is very competent at a different circuit. What can he do here at Monza, a track which is almost all straightaway focused? He's really being slow and careful coming to Parabolica. All right, but we're going to go silently for a lap on board now. Okay. Oh! And Collie Boy, and what? All right. Well, with that, Collie Boy might be screwed. Flavor may be screwed as well, because apparently it was contact between Flavor and Dr. Phil that caused that, according to the game. I will fully admit, I just looked away when I hit the mute button, and then when I turned my focus back when I heard the loud crash, it literally was only looking away for the briefest of seconds, but, I'm sorry to say, as a broadcaster, I missed that, but you guys watching probably saw what actually happened there. Collie Boy, the car, very badly damaged, no front wing at this point. Flavor has potential damage on his car. Dr. Phil is out of it. Huh. I believe Flavor has a time penalty. V8 Irons now goes up second on the Christmas tree, 121.727. Snake is in the middle of a lap now. We're going to be right on board with Imperium for a flying lap shortly here. But here comes Snake, veteran of X3 out of the final corner. He'll be the 12th driver to set a lap time, and it will be a time of 120.843. So Snake now goes to the top in his Mercedes. Schumacher SF7, your championship points leader. 50 points on top coming into this race after coming home second last week. Would love to lock up the title here, but he doesn't feel a lot of confidence. Says he does not feel confident at all with running his car at this track. Coming to the line, Schumacher will set a time. 123.873 on mediums, and we're going to ride on board with... Well, I missed Imperium's start. Curses. BTEC 11 is still in the pits. So what can Imperium do in the Williams here? Through the first chicane, drops tires into the grass. That's not going to help. And Herbago's crashed out! And Herbago has crashed out of qualifying! And second place in the championship has crashed out! Herbago has crashed out of qualifying! Not going to be able to see it, but this will be great news for both Zola in the Red Bull and the Ferrari of Schumacher, along with the Ferrari of Flavor, because they're closest rivals in the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championship. Neither of them will be starting, will even start any higher than 15th. Incredible. Schumacher finally sets a proper flyer, 121.481. He's done that on the medium tires as well. All right, we're going to run board with Collie Boy and see if he can get a proper lap in the Alfa Romeo now. Collie Boy sets a 121.109 while Snake goes ahead and retires in the pits. But at the moment, it just looks like it's going to be a matter of get a time into the 22s or 23s and you're advancing. Zola on the medium tires trying to sneak in without burning up his softs. Eggity now improves his time on worn mediums, 122.784. Imperium SG with a 24.705 is in the drop zone right now. BTEC Glebin in the Haas also has yet to set a time. Will Zola knock Imperium out? This looks very likely. Yes, Zola fourth, fastest, 121.507. So Imperium is now on the outside looking in. BTEC Glebin still in the pits, has not yet attempted a time. And Herbago crashed out very briefly. I got to talk with him through Discord. He still does not have a mic, but Herbago says that he was pushing too hard and that he spun in the last sector. Eggity still on track, pounding out laps. Now he's down on time this circuit, but my guess is that he was improving his recharging his ERS, and I think he's just going to try and run as many laps as he can on the mediums before seeing how much they fall off in race conditions. BTEC Glebin still has yet to get out onto the circuit to get a proper time in. Mercedes AMG is on an outlap. He's trying to improve his time because it's his teammate who's only 2/10 off that is in position of getting drop zone. Mercedes is 14, so if Glebin sets a time and then either Higgs or Imperium improves, Mercedes could be the driver on the outside looking in. Fuel very low for Eggity at the moment. He's down by a 1/10 of a second right now as he goes through Ascari. Nice and controlled through there. I love that camera angle. Flavor coming back out onto an outlap. Flavor also knows that he's at risk of maybe getting knocked out of qualifying. And Eggity retires. Mercedes, his teammate, already on track, and Higgs, Boston, on an outlap. BTEC Glebin still has not yet made an attempt to get onto the track. He needs to do it in the next 10 seconds if he wants to make it to the line in time. But something tells me that Glebin is going to go ahead and not try to set a time. That will significantly help Herbago. That means he'll start 17th instead of 18th. Fratters retires in the session. A large number of drivers have retired here at this point in the event. For Flavor and Higgs Boston, they're both... Oh, wow, and Mercedes into the wall! And Mercedes, in the middle of a lap here, he's trying to improve of, has crashed coming out of Ascari. The car's not totaled. He'll be able to keep going, but he now needs to hope that the drivers behind him are not able to improve. And frankly, it's just one. That's Higgs Boston. And Boston has invalidated, so that's it. Everyone's times are final. So for drivers like Flavor or Mercedes, they don't have to worry. Flavor is locked into the next round qualifying, as is Mercedes. And Higgs Boston is just barely going to get locked in as well. Higgs was actually up by 8/10 that lap. But here's the thing to take note of. Eggity, V8 Irons, Extra Zola, and MSC SF7 all set their times on medium tires. So by doing so, they have more sets of softs available in Q2 and Q3. Eggity in particular, he set his fastest lap late on the mediums. Flavor trying to improve. He's up by about an eighth of a second out of Sector 2. So he is en route to probably be ahead of Eggity overall. Not like it will matter too much. Q1 is just a matter of being the top 15 fastest drivers, but I think this might be a matter of pride. Flavor goes up to 11th fastest, 122.121. So the drivers that will not advance will be Imperium and BTEC Jeleband. There's the results, but here's the thing. Coliboy and Flavor both having 5-spot grid penalties in this race after what happened earlier there. All right, so 15 drivers going for 10 spots. Track's going to be a little bit less crowded now. The big thing, though, is that we have an Alfa Romeo and a Ferrari both doing whatever they can to try and overcome grid spot penalties in this race. And it looks like the first driver onto the track this time is going to be a familiar face. It's Gallminator. Didn't really say much about him in the first round of qualifying, but Gallminator now coming out on track. And just behind him, that is his teammate XRL Boothie. All right, and coming in the party with me right now is PZ French Fry Man. PZ, go ahead, include your audio. It's great to have you here back in the broadcasting booth after a long absence. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, first of all, hello everyone, and I'm really glad to be back in the booth. I was just waiting to have internet back at home, and that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, I only missed Q1, which is a good thing.
Well, if you had to miss a Q1, of course, this would be the Q1 to miss. There was a lot of chaos that went down in the first round of qualifying here already. All right, so as it stands right now, we have 20 drivers who will be starting this grid, so it will be the first full X3 field since early on in the last game, F1 2021, so that's great to see. But in the first round of qualifying, of note, Mantic Meerkat serving a qualifying ban, and he's the number 2 driver in the McLaren camp, and they're fighting for a manufacturer's championship. Then Herbago, who is second in overall standings, crashed out. Second. Yeah, second overall. In standings, Herbago crashed out in his qualifying run after running over a curb and getting spent sideways with that. So neither of our McLarens, who have been the fastest cars all season long, are going to start any higher than 16th. On top of that, I did not get to see it, but apparently there was an incident between the Ferrari of XRL Flavor and the Red Bull of Dr. Phil coming into the first chicane. The two of them got into it, and Dr. Phil's car was completely destroyed, and then Coliboy ended up going and hitting the stricken car as well. And then also throughout all that, the Haas of BTEC Jeleband never attempted the lap either. So the first round of qualifying, very, very bizarre and chaotic. Hopefully this round will be a little bit more put together. Oh, also we probably already had like 6 different accidents or spins coming out of Ascari as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it's because Monza doesn't look like a very complicated track. Doesn't mean it's not tricky at some places. I'm especially thinking about, well, turn 1 to the first chicane and possibly every chicane on this track. Mostly Ascari. Since you think you can take it flat out, but it's not as easy as it gets.
Gallman, and Boothie are the first drivers to cross the line. They'll set the time that everyone will be chasing in the 121.497 and 122.369. Here comes Mercedes. He crashed in the first round of qualifying, but still made it in. Now he sets a time 123.790. Agady sets a 24.215. Also of note, Agady, Zola, Schumacher, and Dave, I believe it was, all set their times in Q1 on medium tires, so they have more sets of soft tires that they can utilize in either this session or the final session of this round.
And Zola across the line, provisional pole, a 121.322.
Keep an eye on Dragonborn. Top 3 in the times in the first round qualifying. Dragonborn qualified 3rd last week at a very rainy run at Zandvoort, and that event, he actually ended up winning in his first start after significantly under fueling and just having everyone ahead of him crash out. Schumacher into the 20s with a 20.986 now. Fratters, Dave, and Plastic all beginning their laps.
Both Alpines are getting in pit lane. But who will be next across the lot?
We're broadcasting. I apologize for that, people.
Yeah.
Agady now goes a little bit faster his next round. That seems to be Agady's strategy thus far. He did the same thing in the first round of qualifying. He'll just go up, really heavily fuel the car, and then bet on improving his times as everything goes on. Thing is, he only did 2 laps this time instead of 5 laps in the first round. He's already nearly out of fuel. The 22.171. Frankly, if you're not in the 121s, I think you're going to be at risk of getting knocked out in this round of qualifying, though.
Dragonborn has improved significantly as he is now in the 121s, at 121.412.
Next driver who will be crossing the line will be Fratters, but he's invalidated this lap, so our focus really goes to Dave and Plastic Love. There's been an Aston Martin that's had an instance that's Mercedes who spun at the top of the circuit. Dave sets a 22.219. Plastic Love coming through Parabolica now. Very low on fuel. So the car will be at its lightest possible, and he's going to commit to it. He will set a time of 121.324. That's the 3rd best time thus far. Collie Boy in the middle of the lap. Again, Alfa Romeos have been having some really incredible qualifying performances in the last several months, honestly, pretty much since this game has started. Now, their ability to convert that into race finishes have been a little bit suspect, but they started turning that around at Spa 3 weeks ago. And Spa is a circuit that is very fundamentally similar to this one. So I do think there is a possibility we may see one, if not both, of the Alfa Romeos finish in the points, if not near the fighting for podium positions. Collie Boy 53.864 at the end of Sector 2, now through Ascari. Gotta be so careful through here, but he'll keep it together, he'll keep it alive, onto the final straightaway, the non-DRS straight here at Monza. And we'll send it down into Parabolica. What was the last race you broadcasted with us, PZ? Do you remember?
Ooh. Matter of fact, it's been almost 3 months. So maybe I did one of the
Oh, and
seasonal king
launches
races.
around and into the wall! Avascari!
Looks like no damage to the car.
Well, you've missed a lot then. So, of things to take note of, just kind of a general season recap then. Early on, it looked like it was going to be XRL Zola and Schumacher SF7 fighting for the championship. Herbago missed a lot of races in the first 7 weeks of the season, but every race he partook in, he would win. Then when we got to Baku, in practice for Baku, the McLaren camp figured out something when it came to setup that allowed them to run excessively low wings. At Baku, if I remember correctly, they were running 2 in the front and 0 in the rear, and they were not losing any time in the corners either. They walked Baku, and at that point, that was the only race that Herbago didn't win that he had started, and that was because he fought with his teammate, and Meerkat ended up gaining him in the end. After that, though, there was a string of other races where it was always McLaren's winning. Canada, it was a McLaren victory. At the Red Bull Ring, it was a McLaren victory. At France, it was a McLaren victory. That just kind of became the talk going forward. There was nothing you could really do to stop the McLarens. And although Herbago missed a lot of races early on, he was winning every single race he had started at that point because no one could catch the McLarens, especially Herbago, in a straight line. When we got to Red Bull Ring, I do know I told you that, at Red Bull Ring, we actually ran a caution-free race, the first time in XRL X3 history that we had done so. Then, when we got to Spa, things finally changed. At Spa, the Ferrari of Schumacher SF7 actually got the pole by being nearly a full second faster in Sector 2 alone, which gave him just enough that he would be able to get the pole. But in the race, the McLarens walked away early on. Late in the event, though, there was a yellow flag, and it looked like we were going to see a setup of the classic Schumacher versus Hakkinen battle from 2000, just swap the drivers in the cars, almost, because it was a McLaren defending and a Ferrari attacking. Going down the back straightaway at Spa, the McLaren defended a middle to inside line, and Schumacher took his Ferrari on the outside line. They were side by side going into the braking at the end of the back straightaway, made contact, and the McLaren went around because he had so little downforce and was not able to save the car. Schumacher was able to bring home a victory there, and Herbago came home third. And then last week at Zandvoort was the real game changer because the McLaren started on pole but crashed after a lap 3 restart and finished dead last while Schumacher brought it home second. So at the moment it is a 50-point swing in favor of the Ferrari driver in the Drivers' Championship, but in the manufacturers, McLaren and Ferrari are still pretty much in a dead heat as it stands. So while I was going on about that, when it comes to the timesheets, Boothie is on the bubble, 22.369. Mercedes desperately needs to figure out a way to improve. He is still in the 23s. His teammate Higgs Boston is in the middle of the lap right now, 54.469. He invalidates going into Ascari. And Fratters has run out of fuel. No, never mind. He's not run out of fuel. Sorry. I saw the red light on his fuel. I didn't realize it just means he was adjusting it. Plastic Love and Dragonborn both retire in the pits. Collie Boys also retired in the pits. Snake retires. So a lot of drivers feeling very confident right now. Pretty much if you're in the 21s, it looks like you're good to advance to the next round. Fratters and V8 Irons beginning their flyers now. Iron set one of the fastest times in Q1. Not a great exit out of the final chicane that time, though. Oh yeah, another thing to talk about, I guess, is Plastic Love has absolutely blossomed over the last few weeks. He has been bringing home some incredible runs, and although he's not in contention to fight for the title, he's been one of the few drivers who's been able to actually properly hang with the McLarens and Schumacher, who are your definitive championship containers and fastest drivers here. Flavor has just retired in the pits. So Flavor is going to start 18th behind the McLarens because he has a 5-spot grid penalty as well. So there will be only one Ferrari near the front of the grid. So a lot of our top hitters are not going to be anywhere near the front. And Dave now retires in he's crashed, actually. Dave has crashed out. Dave has crashed at the top of the circuit. So Dave will not advance to the next round of qualifying.
L2, I probably caught in the AstroTurf on the outside of the second Lesmo. Just like I said, easy looking track, but don't get too cocky. This is one of the spots where this track can catch you off guard.
Whew, wow, I was following Fratters coming out of Ascari, and that entire thing, he ran over the inside curb out of Ascari, and the car drifted all the way out. I don't know how he kept it off the outside curb, because that thing was just sideways enough that if he hit that outside curb, he was going to completely lose it. Great job on Fratters keeping it together there. He will set a time 1:21.807. All right, so at this point, 13 of our 14 remaining drivers have set times. We know Dave's not going to advance. Mercedes trying to advance right now. We are almost out of time, and Higgs Boston and the Aston Martin has not been able to set a proper lap at all, so he will not advance. So it's just come down to what can Boothie and Mercedes do here. Well, Boothie's not going to advance. He's invalidated. So can Mercedes improve enough to squeeze Eggity out? That's a Red Bull that has had an instant. That's Zola, who has had an instant now out of Ascari. Coming down the back straightaway, with the second of the two back straightaways, through the final corner for Mercedes. This is not going to happen. He's had a bad start to this lap. He's not going to improve. So neither of the Aston Martins will make it out of this round qualifying. Flavor's not going to make it out. Dave's not going to make it out. Boothie's not going to make it out. Bizarre circumstances here at Monza. So yeah, we have a lot of interesting names that'll be going for pole position here then. Eggity is going to be fighting for it. Fratters is going to be fighting for pole here. Dragonborn, in only a second race, might have pace for another top 4 starting spot. Collie is matching Schumacher on merit right now. Snake is one of the fastest drivers out here. Zola could maybe get pole, so could Plastic Love. So very interesting circumstances at the moment here as we exit the second round of qualifying. All right, so 10 drivers fighting for the final 10 spots, the top 10 spots for the start of this race. And it looks like, once again, the first driver out on track is going to be the Alpine of Gulminator. Making his way down already. And he is not alone. Dragonborn has joined him out of pits. So is the Mercedes of XRL Snake. And so is the Ferrari of Schumacher SF7. So 4 drivers rushing to get on track as soon as they can here. And now here comes another group. All right. And coming into the party now is XRL Flavor. Flavor, go ahead, include your audio. What happened in Q1?
I'm not sure. I just made a silly mistake. I say I got slightly confused by my teammate. I don't know. I forgot where I was for a second. Made a stupid mistake, and I'm so sorry. To be honest, that's why I just retired. Just so I can start behind Dr. Phil. So I felt quite bad for him. I sent him a message. Totally accept liability and responsibility for it. Yeah, just unfortunate. But it's affecting my race as well now.
All right, so you're going to be starting in the back, in the middle of the rear of the field. Do you think you have a car that can get you into the podium finishing position, or not podium finishing, but at least the points paying positions in today's race, though?
I think, if I'm honest, I was coming into this race thinking if I can get a top 10 here, I'd be quite happy, because it's an IVE downforce track. Probably suits those ones on controllers more. So yeah, I think if I get a top 10, I think for me, if I get a top 10, I'll be happy. Maybe anything below 8 will be a success for me, I think.
All right, well, hopefully you're able to survive, because this will likely be a chaotic start, a full field at the start at this race. Good luck, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
And again, sorry to Dr. Phil, mate. I really am.
Flavor in the fight for 5th overall in drivers' points, also helping his teammate Schumacher fight for the overall drivers' champion of the overall manufacturers' championship. And this is not going to be the help he needs, but we've seen Flavor pull himself out of worse holes before, so hopefully he'll be able to make something of it. So everyone right now in the middle of a lap, but it is Gulminator who once again will set the time everyone is going to go for. He has Zola right behind him on circuit, but Zola's only on an out lap and not close enough to get a draft off the straightaway. It's really the only team in a position to do some draft shenanigans are the Mercedes of Fratters and Snake, and then the AlphaTauris of V8 Irons and Eggity. Here comes Gulminator to the line. He'll set a lap time 121.014, a great initial time. Now here comes Schumacher. What can he do? .734.
And he does improve from his Q2 lap.
Snake in the
Not
20s
much, I would
also
agree,
now.
but
Yeah, Snake's also in the 20s, 120.995. Plastic Love, 121.305. Here comes V8
Gulminator
Irons.
is looking the other way around. Entering the Curva Grande.
Might want to get moving soon before the game disqualifies him for parking in a dangerous location. It looks like he's finally getting underway now. Dragonborn, again, has had a not very good start of initial lap, 135.612. It seems like it takes him the better part of 2 laps to get properly to grip with the tires in this car. And he also had to swerve to avoid Gulminator's machine. Here comes Zola now. He'll be the 9th driver to set a time.
Ooh, real tight entering the Parabolica. This looks promising.
120.641. So Zola trying to vault himself into championship contention and steals pole position from Schumacher here. Dragonborn is improved at the moment, but I think he's still going to be in the 23s because he had to swerve massively to avoid Gulminator, and that may have compromised his time.
But it's still a big improvement. That's enough for 5th at 121.062.
Fratters, the only driver, has yet to set a lap. He is now beginning his flyer. And the track's going to get really quiet now because there are only 3 other cars on the circuit with Fratters, and they're on cooldown laps right now, so... 26.735 at the end of Sector 1 into the second chicanes. Fratters dips his tires into the outside gravel, but I don't think it upset the car very much. But if he's running wide through these corners, he needs to be extremely careful and wary going into a scar, because he steps really wide there at coming onto the second DRS straight. And he's backing out of it. He's aborting this lap. So Fratters knows that this lap is not going to be proper. He has aborted out of this one. I'm going to guess he's going to go for another one because he's probably recharging his ERS. You use about 55 to 60% of your ERS in a lap here. That's Eggity who is coming up behind him, but Eggity's nearly out of fuel. Alright, so Fratters goes for another shot at this. We'll ride silently for a lap on board with the Mercedes now. So in the end, Fratters sets a 122.196, and he absolutely put everything on the line there, but he's still the slowest of our 10 drivers at the moment. I don't know if there's any way Fratters can improve unless he can get his teammate Snake to work with him and give him a pull down the straightaways here. Gulminator's in the middle of a lap right now. Dragonborn and Snake are both on outlaps. Plastic Love is also in the middle of another lap as well. But our top 2, Zola and Schumacher, have yet to come back onto the track for a proper go at this again. Fulminator down by 1.9 seconds at the moment, so this lap is not going to be it. This will not be a lap. We'll see him improve. Collie Boy now jumps up to third in the 20s now. 120.965, so that's a 300th second difference between himself and Snake. Here comes Gulminator to begin another flyer. Plastic Love, I think, may have had some sort of incident. He looks really slow coming out of the second chicanes. Bay Irons now beginning his outlap, and so has Zola. When does Schumacher come back onto the track to try and defend his pole position? Because he only has about 20 seconds to do so. There he is, yes. Schumacher in the Ferrari now coming down, getting ready to get a lap in. One more shot to try and take pole from Zola. Here comes Plastic Glove to the line to begin a proper run here. Gulminator is up by nearly 2/10. That sort of improvement would put him into the 20s. Big slide entering Parabolica. Coming down to the line, he's low on fuel, burning the ERS. He'll set 120.920. So Gulminator, despite that slide in the final corner, sets a time that'll put him third at the moment. Here comes the AlphaTauri of V8 Irons. 121.248 is his best thus far. He now begins the flyer. So if you're not in the middle of the lap now, you better be racing to the line. Collie Boy retires in the pits. He knows he's not going to go any faster. 120.965 is best he's going to do. Same with Fritters. Fritters will be starting 10th.
Can Zola improve on his own lap?
Zola now begins his run.
Oh.
Yeah, the game does this weird thing where in Sector 3, it will all of a sudden remove the outlap thing from the Christmas tree, and it really can confuse you sometimes. It's really annoying. I don't know why it doesn't just remove it properly when they cross the line. All right, 15 seconds left. Will Schumacher make it to the line in time for this run? And then
Yes,
can he
will.
make this happen without any mistakes? Next driver to come to the line will be Plastic Glove. As you look at the clock, time's up, over, plow. Plastic Glove to the line. Does he improve? Yes, up to fourth, 120.961. What about Gulminator? Gulminator's invalidated. He can't improve. What about V8 Irons? He'll be the next driver. It says he's up by half a second as Sector 2. That sort of improvement would put him into the 20s.
Okay, Schumacher's 10th up on his own time. This isn't
Irons
good.
goes to third now,
Ferrari driver.
20.755.
Ooh.
What about Snake? Snake is down. Snake is not going to improve. Here comes Zola trying to lock him. Zola's invalidated his lap. He can't go any faster. So it's all up to Schumacher and Dragonborn.
And he's still improving, almost 3/10.
Dragonborn now jumps up to second, 120.716. Here comes the Ferrari. Can we see a Ferrari on pole at Monza for the Tifosi? Yes, we do!
Yes.
120.405 in the end for Schumacher. And that's one more point for his championship runs. And it'll be probably the best starting position you can have here at Monza. Incredible final laps there. Look at this. Look at this, PZ. Look at this. The top 8 drivers all in the 120s, all within 6/10 of each other. You factor in the possibility of some DRS. We could see some really interesting DRS and Truly trains here.
We won't have the whole thing about just like they have in NASCAR, the drafting partners and all that stuff, but this looks promising.
All right, so it's going to be a 5-minute wait until we get to the start of this race. So real quickly, we're going to go ahead and look through the championship standings as they are right now. Again, last week, a great recovery drive from the Ferraris against McLarens that really couldn't properly perform. We'll go over the points as a whole real shortly here once I get it properly pulled up. All right, so in the Manufacturers' Championship, this is what it looks like. AlphaTauri is still in 10th with only 59 points. 9th is Williams, and 8th is Aston Martin. They are in a tie with 81 points each. 7th is Mercedes. They brought home 87 points overall across this season. They actually moved ahead of those two last week. 6th is Alpine with 89 points. 5th is Alfa Romeo with 106. 4th is Haas. That win by Dragonborn really vaulted them up with 116 points. 3rd is Red Bull, 183 points, but they are pretty much out of Manufacturers' Championship contention at this point. And then the fight for the Manufacturers' title, 2nd, McLaren, who has led for the last few weeks, has fallen to 2nd with only 319 points. Ferrari has 321, so a 2-point advantage for the Ferrari team in the Manufacturers' Championship going into this race. In the Drivers' Championship, this is what it looks like. 18th is V8 Irons with 6 points. 16th is a tie between XRL Boothie and Imperium SG. They both have 12 points. 14th sees a tie between XRL Snake and Mercedes AMG. Snake has had some great runs, but his ability to finish races has been a little bit rough, to say the least. 13th is Galminator with 24 points. 12th is Dragonborn with that win and fastest lap. He has 26 points right now. 11th is Higgs Boston 97 with 32 points. 10th is Eggedy 75 with 35. There's a jump. 9th is XRL Dave with 50 points. 8th is Plastic Glove with 53. 7th is Collie Boy with 56 points. 6th is AK Herbie with 58. Flavor is 5th with 79 points. Kind of in no man's land right now. Just needs to run defensive, and he could probably bring home top 5 in Drivers' Championship. 4th is Mantic Meerkat. Very outside chance of him being able to fight in the championship now, because he's nearly right now he only has about half the points of your leader, but he is still mathematically in contention with 127 points. He will probably drop out of that contention this week. 3rd is XRL Zola with 175 points. He is also an extreme outside chance for the championship. 2nd is Herbago with 192 points, so he's exactly 50 points out of your championship leader, XRL MSC SS7, who has 242 points right now. And for Herbago, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, if he ends up losing the championship. I don't think it's over yet, because Herbago has shown some incredible speed. But if Herbago loses the championship, I know a lot of drivers are probably going to say, oh yeah, he lost at Zandvoort. I'm going to go ahead and take the alternate route. I'm going to say that Herbago will have lost the title by missing so many races early on in the year. All right, so here's the other thing to take note of, though. Monza, typically like Spa before it, it's a single-stop racetrack. Typically, you want to go mediums to hards or hards to mediums. As I look across the entire field right now, check this out. You have, at the front, it's going to be Schumacher, Zola, Dragonborn, V8 Irons, Galminator, Plastic Glove. They're all going to be starting on medium tires. Snake starts on 7th. He is the highest of everyone who's starting on the hards. And then after you get by Snake, then you have a bunch of more people starting on mediums. Eggedy in 8th, mediums. Fratters 9th, mediums. Dave, who ends up dropping down to 10th because he's taking also a 5-spot grid penalty due to his involvement in that Q1 incident. He's going to be starting on mediums. 11th, Boothie, mediums. Collie Boy in 12th, mediums. Mercedes in 13th, mediums. Higgs Boston and Imperium in 14th and 15th, mediums. Herbago in 16th, mediums. BTEC 11, 17th, mediums. Meerkat, the real wild card here, he is on softs at the start of this race. 19th, Flavor, he's going to be on hards, and Dr. Phil in 20th is going to be on hards as well. So, very interesting circumstances, to say the least, because we have one driver in the top 10 starting on hards, and then everyone else who's not on everyone else who's not on mediums, they're at the back of the grid on wildly alternate pit strats. So who knows what's going to happen. Again, the most important thing, watching the McLarens we are anticipating will have enough speed that they can actually overtake anyone they want down the straightaways, but they need to keep from being involved in accidents going over the curbs or at the start of this race here. Well, I'm sorry. Peasy, are you still there?
Yes, I do.
Alright, so just like you normally ask, at the start of the race, will you go ahead and focus near the back of the grid, ideally on either Mantic Meerkat or Herbago, and just break in and interrupt me if you see anything of note, because that's going to be where the interesting stuff is. My focus is going to be at the front of the grid, where we have X3 veterans Irons, and then newcomer Dragonborn right behind two of our title contenders. So, yeah, if you see something at the back at the initial start of the race, feel free to go ahead and cut in and interrupt me.
I will do. It's
Alright, so yeah, in the end, the only drivers not starting this race on medium tires, Snake in 7th, he'll start on hards. Herbago in 16th, also starting on hards. Meerkat in 18th, starting on soft, so Meerkat's going for a double stop strategy. Flavor in 19th, starting on hards, and Dr. Phil in 20th, also starting in hards as well. Schumacher wasting no time to rush to the start-finish line. Well, not start-finish line, but to the grid. He wants to get this race going as quickly as possible. Again, I talked about this 2 weeks ago at Spa. A patch that was brought out for this game about a month ago made it to where once you rush to your grid spot, the game basically locks in your tire temps, so you're not going to be losing tire temps while you're sitting at the grid waiting for the rest of the field to catch up. So, right now, oh, what in the... Fratters in his warm-up was off circuit in the grass going down the non-DRS straight. Don't know what was going on there. All right. So the field now gathering up. But the focus is going to be at the front. We're going to be riding on board with Gallman. No, we're going to be riding on board with Irons at the initial start, and Peasy will break in if something happens of note at the back. The entire field has lined up on the grid as we wait for the countdown of the lights. Four lights, 5 lights. As lights out, away we go. Jalebin gets a drive-through penalty for jump start near the back of the grid, and Zola has outrun Schumacher. So Zola goes to the front, and they're 3 wide back there for the 4th and 5th position. Dragonborn had a horrible start. He's going to be trapped on the outside. They're 3 wide. There's contact all through the middle of the field. It has caused a big chaotic thing all the way down. Fratters is going to hold out to 9th position. Collyboy moves up to 10th. Agony to 11th. Mercedes to 12th. And already the McLarens have moved up in the 14th and 15th position. And Zola has walked off with the lead. Here comes Fratters. He looks to the inside of Boothie. Going into the second chicane. He's going to make it work. Cuts off Boothie.
And the McLaren spins.
And that's Herbago. Second in the championship has spun in the chicane. Meerkat's already worked his way up in the 14th, though. Now coming to 13th as he goes to the inside of Dave at the top of the circuit. Oh, and that's an Alpine around. That's Dominator. Here comes Meerkat now, easily going to out-drag Dave to the DRS straight, coming into Ascari. But we don't know what Meerkat can do because Meerkat's not been able to set even a lap in qualifying due to his ban. Doesn't seem like it's harming him that much. He is flying his way up through the grid right now. Boston now gets by Dave as well.
He is consuming a lot of ERS to make up spots in the first lap, and he went up from 18th to 11th.
Making full use of those soft tires and ERS early on, and DRS when it kicks in will also be in his favor because again, the McLarens are expected to run excessively low wings today.
Oh, there's a fight up front between Collyboy and Boothie, entering 2-1 in the first chicane.
Meerkat's just made another overtake, this time on Egedy out of the chicane. So Meerkat in a single lap in a corner has gone from near the back all the way up into 10th. Irons has caught Dragonborn for 5th. And Snake honestly had a really good start there. He is now 4th on hard tires. He could be en route for a potential podium. He is right there behind Plastic Love at the moment, going through Ascari. Sector 2, instant. That is a spin farther back. That is Imperium, who has gone around. And Dave now gets by Egedy. Paging Dr. Phil has gone around Mercedes because Mercedes has spun coming out of Ascari. Herbago drag racing with Dave down the non-DRS straightaway. Schumacher has just set the fastest time of the race. Herbago up to 13th. Meerkat's charge forward has stalled out in 10th. At the moment, AlphaTauri around, that's Egedy who spins, coming out of Parabolica. And DRS is now enabled.
Caliboy was looking on the inside of the Alpine, entering turn 1. But he backed out, and now there's a fight up front between Boothie and Fratters.
There's a fight up front for Schumacher and Zola. They're side by side, and Schumacher backs out of it, coming into the second chicane. DRS will kick in, coming onto the back straightaway. Will that be enough for Schumacher to get by Zola, though? Yellow flags. Gelebin and Imperium has had an incident at the back of the grid. Dragonborn gets by Snake, going onto the DRS straightaway. Schumacher closes on Zola down the DRS, but does not get close enough to make a move as they now make their way through Ascari. Zola, big twitch going through Ascari, but he does extend his lead. Oh, contact between Fratters and Boothie! And Meerkat's right behind both of them!
And Atlantic Meerkat.
Oh, Meerkat, what are you doing? He's gonna make it 3 wide, makes contact! He's gonna go off circuit, wash up wide, he keeps the car together! Meerkat with an incredible drive, and now he's brought Herbago up, and Schumacher is just taking the lead from Zola now! And Herbago has now set the fastest lap, so the McLarens are coming to life and coming back to the grid now. Meerkat makes a dive on Caliboy. He'll get by him now. Here comes Beijing Dr. Phil. Phil has silently made his way from the back of the grid as well. Iron's fighting with Dragonborn. Dragonborn is fighting for a top 5 position. Snake gets by Plastic Glove now. More fights on the track that he can shake a stick at.
There's a spin behind.
Oh, Meerkat's involved. Meerkat's involved now. And Meerkat's out of the points position. Herbago now into 10th.
Caliboy completely misses breaking point and win plowing an Atlantic Meerkat who has absolutely nothing for that.
And that's not good for Meerkat because Meerkat's on soft tires, so that car is excessively sensitive to tire damage. Side by side for 7th and 8th. Boothie around the outside of Fratters. And it looks like Fratters is going to lose the position of Boothie now as they go through Ascari. Herbago right behind paging Dr. Phil as they come onto the back straightaway, but Herbago has DRS and paging Dr. Phil is almost also out of it as well. Wow, Herbago has nearly totally killed all of his ERS at this stage of the race. The McLaren will have a DRS advantage going down the straightaway though. Oh, and that's Irons! Irons has crashed out of the top positions as well now. DRS in Herbago's favor, but he's not closing on Dr. Phil, and Fratters and Boothie are fighting as well going into the chicane. Mercedes bumps into the Alpine.
Atlantic Meerkat reclaims 11th spot before turn 1.
Dr. Phil has a run on Fratters. And the McLaren of Herbago continues to watch. Dragonborn now gets by Plastic Love for 4th overall. Or not. They're still side by side as they get onto the DRS straight. It will go in the Haas's favor now. But Plastic has DRS. He'll go to the outside, neck and neck as they go down that second DRS straightaway into the braking zone. Who backs out of it? Neither is going to back out of it, but Plastic is forced off. Just not enough racing room there. Herbago tucked up behind, can't make any moves here. His times are compromised so badly exiting the corners that he's burning everything he can on the straights, but can't seem to make it work. He goes to the inside, Dr. Phil. This is the same move that his teammate made. It didn't work for him. How's it gonna work for Herbago? 3 wide for position, and Herbago washes out, and Herbago spins. Herbago spins, and Parabolica. And now Herbago's gonna fall behind his teammate, Mantic Meerkat. And the McLarens just can't seem to get out of 10th position. They keep making mistakes there in the midfield. Herbago has now dropped to 15th. Dr. Phil, Fratters continue to fight hard for 7th and 8th. There's Dave right behind Fratters as well. Fratters being extremely aggressive on his defense on the run down to the second chicane. Fratters and Dave taking slightly different lines at the top of the circuit. And the thing for Meerkat is he is about 5 seconds out from this fight, and he is on soft tires that are fading away. So for Meerkat,
Oh,
I'm very
we have-
concerned if he's going to be able to do anything here.
If somebody
Oh,
stop on
that's
track.
Plastic Love! Love has crashed out of the top 4 positions! I believe he has significant front wing damage as well. And Zola has gotten by Schumacher at the top of the grid with DRS. So the fight at the front is not over. Zola now has it over Schumacher. They're roughly even on ERS. Zola has 86%. Schumacher laying on it on the outside. He wants to outdrag him into the braking zone. Zola still has 86% ERS on the outside going into the chicane, and Schumacher had the line of choice, and he is by Zola. So Schumacher running the same track that we saw at Spa. He is just happy
Dave in
with
front
the
of
car
side
in the
by side
corners.
during second chicane. Dave gives it. The Mercedes is ahead.
Dragonborn closing in on Snake for third as well. Plastic Love pitting there, has completed his stop and was now on hards that he'll try and make last to the end of this race. And could the McLarens now have their greatest strengths, their extremely low wing setups, turn into a disadvantage because they are running so low wings that they can run down anyone in the straights, but they get to the corners and their runs are not just hampered by their own cars, but also the cars around them. There's been an instant coming out of Ascari, potentially. Gulminator has lost a position of flavor, may have
Dragon
lost
Ball
control
looking
of
on
the
the inside
car.
entering turn 1. He is very clear of Snake.
And Zola has
Ahead,
cleared
and Zola is
Schumacher.
fast.
Yeah, DRS is working very well, so the Red Bulls are faster in the straights than Schumacher, and Schumacher is faster in the corners, it would appear. And Meerkat pits out of the points-paying positions. So now both Ferraris are in the points-paying positions, and neither McLaren is. Both of the Red Bulls are also in points-paying positions as well. This is going to really hurt Meerkat because Meerkat is going to drop all the way back to 16th. He is on hard tires. I'm guessing Meerkat's going to try and make these hards last to the end, or he might jump onto softs at the very end of this race and go for fastest lap point. By the way, this may take Meerkat out of contention for points paying position. Herbago is in 13th and is a long way out from the points paying positions right now. Snake right behind the Haas of Dragonborn, and at the front, Schumacher is about half a second behind Zola. Zola is at 78% ERS. Schumacher has used none of his ERS right now. As they come onto the front straightaway, now Schumacher will have DRS and an ERS advantage. And Dave spins out of the top 10 positions. And Dave has wing damage. He has lost the left front winglet, and this is going to hurt.
Oh,
Oh,
and there's an
Mercedes!
Alpine that's
Yes,
behind him.
Gulminator as well. Gulminator's just had an instant.
Oh,
Oh, no,
V8
he just
iron.
crashed out.
Exit of second Lesmo.
Schumacher got by Zola, and yellow flag is out. Did Schumacher get by Zola before the yellow flag? As we are under a full course yellow, Higgs Boston is going to get a free pit stop out of this. And all these drivers at the back, Meerkat, Plastic Love, and Pyram, this is great news for them because they'll be able to catch up to the rear of the grid. I'm not going to be able to invite V8 irons to a party.
Dave
this
are
scene.
coming out on hard tires.
So it looks like Schumacher had just gotten back by Zola at the front of the grid. This is probably the best Monza race I've ever seen in this game. Honestly, just based off these first 8 laps alone, this is probably top 10 races I've ever seen ever. While broadcasting for XRL, there's been fighting all the way up and down the grid. It's been a great fight at the front, but there's been so much stuff going on in the back as well that's kind of been hard for me to focus on anything. So now the question is, on those drivers who are on the mediums, do they pit and jump onto the hards and try to nurse the hards for remainder 19 laps of this race? It looks like that's the strategy. Schumacher's coming in, Zola's coming in, so Snake is going to be able to stay out on track. Dragonborn is going to come in. Boothie, does he come in?
Looks like he is. Indeed.
Yeah. This will work out well for Dr. Phil. He's going to gain a bunch of positions, go all the way up into second after starting near the back of the field.
Ooh, feels like XRL Flavor is gonna get a couple of spots. At least he's gonna overtake Boothie and Fratters.
And Herbago also now up into the 7th position. He's not been able to make up very many spots. Well, he's been able to make up about 10 or so spots overall in race conditions. But now, one second. But now Herbago is in points paying spots on the same tires as everyone around him, but his tires have a lot more wear. Meerkat still outside of the points paying positions, but he is now 11th instead of 17th, so I'd say this is still a net positive for him. But yeah, the entire field, with the exception of Imperium, who is 19th, is now on hards, and Imperium has to repair damage to his car. So I think the entire field is going to be on hard tires. The thing is, Flavor, Herbago, Dr. Phil, and Snake, they are on hards that they started this race on, so they need to pit at some point. So I think those 4 drivers are really badly hurt at the moment by this, because, yeah, Snake and Phil will have clean air, but they're going to lose so much time to the drivers like Schumacher, Zola, and Dragonborn. I think it's going to be those 3 drivers fighting for this win. It's also going to take a long time for the field to properly gather up. Imperium, will they be able to keep that Williams on the lead lap? Oh, is Imperium going to go a lap down here? It's hard to tell. Is Imperium going to be a lap down? I think they're going to let Imperium stay on the lead lap. Yeah, so Imperium will barely stay on the lead lap in that Williams. So all 19 drivers who are still running will be with us. Here's the interesting one. BTEC Jalebin in 18th. He is going to be on the medium tires. Will be the only driver on the mediums on this race restart. Top 12, top 13 have already gathered up. We're waiting on Dave, Golminator, Agony, Collyboy to all catch up to the rear of the grid. They're about 16 seconds out. And then BTEC 11 is about another 27 seconds behind, and Imperium another 25 seconds. This is going to be a very long safety car. Apparently there has been an update that means that the safety car will be a little bit shorter, and they'll only run like a maximum of 3 laps, I believe it is, under a single safety car. All right, here we are. Now we see that group from 14th to 17th. They all finally are going to catch the rear of the grid now. When it comes to penalties at this stage in the race, Fratters has a 3-second time penalty, as does Collyboy. But outside of them, everyone is still on no penalties right now.
Oh, and Snake is such a bit.
Out of the top 2 positions, he was leading. Now he's going to pit, and they're throwing on the medium tires. He's the only driver to do so. So I think Snake is betting on another yellow late in the race to jump onto either another set of mediums or a set of soft. The problem is that stop has dropped Snake all the way to 17th. I don't think Snake realizes just how much time he has lost from this stop. So now
Maybe
Schumacher
he expected the safety car to go back in the pits earlier than, well, end of lap 12, maybe lap 13.
This does bring Meerkat back into the points-paying positions, though. But now it is Dr. Phil who is in the lead, and Zola, his teammate, is third. The 2 Red Bulls tangled with each other at Zandvoort on a restart. They need to avoid doing that same thing again. Schumacher needs to get by Dr. Phil as quickly as possible. Snake and Glebin will be on fresh medium tires while everyone else around them will be on hard, so those two drivers should have a advantage, but I don't know if it's going to be enough of an advantage
Safety car in this lap.
Yeah, so they're not waiting on Imperium to catch the rear of the grid, so Imperium may still end up being at risk of going a lap down depending on how the rest of this race plays out. Dr. Phil controls the field as they come to the green flag. How will he back up Schumacher on this restart? And take note of Herbago, second in points, sitting in sixth right now, off strategy from the rest of the field. Parabolica. And green flag is out. Zola went to the outside, but dropped the car over the outside curb and did not get as good of a start as he wanted. So Dr. Phil is going to walk away just a bit. In fact, the entire top four all kind of pull away. Here comes Herbago on the inside of Flavor. That's for the 5th position. It's a big wreck there as Mercedes goes around and Fratters hits the wall. Flavor actually gets ahead of Herbago out of the corner, and Herbago now back by. Here comes Boothby. He's got to run. Herbago now into 5th. And now he is going to make his run on the top 4. The next driver in his sights will be Dragonborn in the Haas. Meerkat now in 8th behind Boothby as well. And Plastic Glove has recovered from his accident earlier. He is now in the top 10 positions. Dave shoots to the inside Mercedes AMG at the top of the track where Mercedes pulls out with faster speed out of the corner. Snake is already up in the 14th. Dragonborn working on Zola
Dominator
now.
around.
And that will drop him near the rear of the grid. Oh, and Goldenator has a collision with Imperium in the process. And now Goldenator will have a time penalty to serve from that. Meerkat gets by Flavor now. Flavor has had a spin out of Ascari, and that will drop the number 2 Ferrari out of the points. That's good news for the McLarens, because this means that the McLarens may be in a position to still end up with a net positive points in the Manufacturers' Championship. Meerkat runs right behind Boothby. Has a big run, lays on the ERS, and will easily clear the Alpine. So McLaren's now run 5th and 6th as Herbago sees the fight between Zola and Dragonborn ahead. Herbago now right there behind Zola, and even with the way older tires, Herbago seems to be the fastest driver on track. He just needs to not make mistakes. Zola defending.
Looking on the outside, Curva Grande gets the advantage entering the second chicane.
Now his fights with Dragonborn. As Schumacher continues to run behind Dr. Phil. Phil only in his second start in the series. Schumacher, an X3 veteran fighting for a title. Right now, Phil has an advantage in ERS by about 10% against Schumacher. But Schumacher will end up with the DRS advantage starting next lap. Herbago tucked up behind Dragonborn. Laying on the ERS down the back.
Looks like Dr. Phil's retaliating, doing so as well.
Oh, big twitch by Herbago! I don't know how he saved it there through Parabolica, and now Zola has a run. And Schumacher has a run for the lead. Going to look on the outside of Dr. Phil as they come down into the first chicane. He's going to back out of it. Doesn't want to go side by side through there. Snake pits. He has to repair damage to his car. And there's been an accident as well. Imperium has crashed at the top of the circuit. So everyone in the top 6 now has DRS on each other. This is going to get hairy. Herbago, 24% ERS. Dragonborn, 44% at the moment. So Herbago will likely get the run on Dragonborn. Down on this, the DRS back straightaway. Laying on the ERS. Dragonborn not laying on the ERS as quickly. Now he lays on it. Here comes Herbago. He looks to the outside, side by side for the podium position. Can't make it stick. Meerkat, Zola fight for positions as well farther back. Zola's going to barely hold on to 5th. Meerkat can't get by the Red Bull yet, but he has got a better run out of Ascari. Coming out to the back straightaway with no DRS. Meerkat is going to lay on the power, but he's out of ERS as he goes to the inside of the Red Bull. Bad entry into Parabolica. Can't make it stick. Herbago has DRS again on the Haas. He's almost out of ERS, but he is fine. He goes to the outside. Dragonborn can't fight back. Side by side for third. I think Herbago's going to get third this time. And Dr. Phil finally is going to lose it to Schumacher or not. He tries to run Schumacher as wide and as tight as he can through the chicane. Phil has the advantage down the chicane, and Herbago is now third. Dragonborn fighting back against Herbago now. He's got to run. He looks to the inside of the McLaren. Side by side McLaren against Red Bull as well. Further back, and Dragonborn down by Herbago. And Herbago has spun. Herbago has spun while fighting with the Haas. And that will drop Herbago all the way down to 10th. Now Meerkat is in 4th. He is by Zola, and he is now setting his sights on Dragonborn. And Herbago on those very worn hard tires. It's the same thing we saw at Spa. On very worn tires, the low downforce means that the McLarens just can't perform at the level they need to. Schumacher still has not been able to get by Dr. Phil. Phil has a massive ERS advantage, about 14%. But Schumacher is so much better in the corners, and he has ERS in the straights as well. Dragonborn is there in third. He is caught. This is going to be a three-way fight for the lead now. Dragonborn has a big run on Schumacher down the main straightaway. Does he make the move into... No, he does not. He backs out of it. And Herbago pitting to repair damage from that spin. He'll jump onto the mediums, but he is well out of the points paying positions now. For the point spots, David Colleyboy 8th and 9th, and Mercedes is right behind. Mercedes goes on the outside of Colleyboy through Curva Grande. Can he make it stick? No. This brings VTEC Gilebend up behind. Gilebend is on the medium tires. At the front, Dr. Phil has a roughly 2/3 second advantage over Schumacher. So with those extremely old tires, Dr. Phil is able to stay ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher just cannot seem to get by. And now Meerkat making his run on Dragonborn. But Meerkat is basically out of ERS down the straightaway. He only has DRS. Dragonborn defends the inside very aggressively. Meerkat shoots to the outside. Contact between the two of them. Still contact. They grind on each other through the chicane, but Dragonborn accelerates out. And Zola is now back into this fray as well.
Dr. Phil is still holding on to the lead, even with his 17 laps old hard compound tires. Phenomenal job as a Red Bull driver. I just want to point it out.
The problem, though, is that Dr. Phil is on the same set of tires he started this race on. He'll need to pit at some point. Now, the good news is he's running out in front clean air, so that means that he'll be able to conserve the tire life a lot more. However, he'll have to pit, and when he pits, he's going to lose a lot of positions. I do think right now Schumacher is going to be in the overall lead of this race. Contact again between Dragonborn and Meerkat going into Ascari, and this brings Zola right up behind. Higgs Boston has crashed out. And that's a full, is that full course? No, that's a virtual safety car.
It's a VSC crash just at the entry of pit lane.
So for Dr. Phil, this is his best chance. If he pits now, he'll
Really
minimize the spots lost.
Oh, he's in the dead center of the track.
Schumacher is pitting. Dragonborn's crashed out. Dragonborn has crashed out. And Zola has just got a penalty for a collision with Higgs Boston. And now Meerkat is in fray for winning this race potentially. And Zola, his weight is destroyed. And we're under virtual no, now it is a full course. Now we are under a full course safety car. We are now under a full course safety car, and the entire race has been upended. Dr. Phil still needs to make a stop. Meerkat now might be able to win this race. And Dragonborn has crashed out. Higgs Boston has crashed out. Zola's been involved in an accident. Meerkat, I think, is gonna win. If not him, it might be Plastic.
I mean, Magic Meerkat still have to put at least 9 laps on those tires. So granted, safety car lasts 3 to 4 laps. It's not gonna be a really tall order, but if he already struggles with the grip, it really is a gamble. But this took a very crazy turn. Shades of Monza 2020, honestly.
Yeah, all of our top drivers now compromise in very problematic ways. And if Dr. Phil pits with Zola, they're gonna double stack. They're double stacking in the Red Bull camp because they have no option. Phil has to get off these tires, and Zola has to repair his wing. So yeah, Meerkat's gonna easily walk out with this race lead, and I think this is also gonna vault BTEC 11 into potential race-winning contention.
And now, does that mean where does that put Schumacher in the mix? This is what I want to know.
He's gaining a bunch
Ahead
of these
of-
positions back. Is this going to be ahead? He's ahead of Dr. Phil. Yes, Schumacher is now in second. So Schumacher is still in contention for this race win.
The gamble is paid off big time. Man, not only is he on fresh now warmed up rubber, but I don't really see much of a fight between Schumacher and J-Lab End. Or maybe the man in front right now does have some really good defensive maneuvers.
The big thing, though, is that this has absolutely been a blessing and a godsend for the McLarens, because now Meerkat is in fourth on fresh rubber, and he can fight Schumacher on merit, and Herbago is now eighth on moderately fresh rubber. So as long as they don't make any mistakes, the McLarens are still in position to maybe not close in the Drivers' Championship, but in the Manufacturers, they might still be able to claw back the points lead in that fight. Snake now gets a time penalty for track violations. It'll take a long time for the field to all properly gather back up. Flavor is the better part of 35 seconds out from 15th, and Imperium is stuck a lap down in the middle of the field.
All of this is still great news for everyone, because as we know and as we saw, the amount of laps you see on your display is the amount of laps every driver I've put on the tires, but they also count laps on your safety car. So do take that with a grain of salt.
So Dragonborn will not go back-to-back with victories here, and Fratters is now pitting. So in the Mercedes camp, Fratters, they wanted to throw on a set of soft tires, so he'll be last, but it's not going to be that much of a problem for him. And I think we're probably, it's going to come down to how long they wait for Flavor, but we're either going to go green coming on to lap 22 or 23. Now that is enough time for another yellow flag, but I think more significantly, if we stay green to the end, that's more than enough time for the McLarens on merit to get up and fight properly for the positions I think they're supposed to be in. But yeah, I think it looks like it's going to be Schumacher versus Dr. Phil and Meerkat for this win. For Zola, though, because they had to double stack, because they needed to repair that front wing damage, Zola is now out of points paying positions, buried in 12th position. He'll be in the eye of the storm on this restart. Flavor still over 20 seconds out from the rear of the grid. Not gotten word yet. Yeah, we're going to wait for... Apparently, the game says we'll wait for Flavor, so we're going to be going green on lap 23 in that case. which is good news for Flavor. Although he's not in a points-paying position yet, he is in a position where potentially he could still walk out here with points. Glebin, the big thing there is our current leader has a 3-second time penalty. Everyone behind him until you get back to 9th does not. So Glebin, not only does he have to stay ahead of Schumacher on very worn-out tires, he's going to have to stay 3 seconds ahead. I think Glebin knows that this win is not in contention for him. He just needs to try and back the field up as much as he can, so that way he doesn't lose too many positions. And Zola is pitting. Zola is coming into the pits, and I think Zola is going to throw on soft tires to the end of this race.
Indeed it is. It is the logical thing to do. Because this will most likely be a 5-lap shootout.
And Flavor is
Oh,
pitting
and
again.
Flavor as well.
Yeah, they want to put on
Set of
another set of
softs again.
softs. Yeah, they want to be slightly newer. Well, again, Flavor's been pounding out these last few laps on those soft tires, just trying to catch to the rear of the grid. So the best has been knocked off the softs. So I understand why the decision has been made. I just don't know. The thing is going to be, can Flavor get back to the field in time? Zola is about 11 seconds out, and then Flavor is another 13 out. So, So a 5-lap shootout. Glebin on very worn medium tires. And then the next driver to take note of when it comes to tire life will be Snake in 9th. He has 7-lap worn mediums. And then Herbago, who is in 8th, is on 5-lap worn mediums. Yeah, I hate to say that. I don't think Flavor is going to... Yeah, Flavor's not going to catch the rear of the grid in time because safety car is going to come in this lap. Okay, so the question is going to be, oh, and Dr. Phil is now ahead of Schumacher. I don't know what happened there, but somehow Schumacher is now behind Dr. Phil under the safety car. So we could still see a Red Bull victory here.
So far, we've seen some good defensive driving from Dr. Phil, even on older tires than the opposition behind him. So now that he is on fresh rubber, it'll be a tough match for Schumacher right behind.
All right,
And
how's
Gilliland
Gillespie
controls the
bunched up
restart.
the field? Oh, wow, the entire field's very
He's
badly bunched up. Big accident in the back! Mercedes and Williams involved in an accident, and Zola has to pit again to repair damage right off the bat.
Oh, we're 3-1 entering turn 1 with the McLaren in the middle.
This is chaos. This has gone absolutely bad for everyone, it seems. Massive stack up. Massive stack up. And Herbago involved in another accident. And that drops him out of the points. Phil has lost all the way down to 4th. Meerkat is now behind Schumacher, and Glebin is trying to walk up, and Meerkat dumps Schumacher, and Meerkat dumps Schumacher, going into the braking zone. Meerkat dumps Schumacher in the braking zone, and now here comes Dr. Phil as a fight of the number 2 drivers. And Schumacher has been dumped, and Herbago might actually close in on the points. And Meerkat versus Dr. Phil at the front of the field now. And Glebin might, not saying it will, but he might still be able to win this. Meerkat's now got a time penalty. Dr. Phil does not. And what about Boothie? We've not talked about Boothie at all, and now Boothie is up there in the top 4.
Oh, and Dave fighting in Snake. Snake has his nose inside, entering the Parabolica. He backs off. If Dr. Phil can keep it clean, this will do. There's an Aston Martin that has spun. That's Mercedes that has spun in the middle of the Parabolica.
Phil to the inside. Herbago and Plastic Glove has crashed out. Herbago and Plastic Glove has crashed out. And Meerkat cut the track. Meerkat cut the track. Herbago and Plastic Glove has crashed out.
And this is another safety car that comes out.
Meerkat cut the track. I'm shocked that there wasn't a time penalty for that. Well, this has gotten very interesting because now when we go green, there's not going to be enough time for DRS to be re-enabled. So Meerkat, I think, has the advantage. The thing is, Meerkat has a time penalty, and paging Dr. Phil does not. So Dr. Phil might be able to recover. And the big thing, for the second race in a row, Herbago crashing out, and I think this is going to neutralize Herbago's championship chances, because Schumacher is there in 8th, and likely going to bring home at least some points to extend his points lead. Now the McLarens will close in the manufacturer's fight, because Meerkat's there in 2nd, though I don't know, there may be penalties that come to him later after he dumped Schumacher in the braking zone. And Jalebin leads, very worn out tires, but he has now track position and the driver in 2nd behind him does not. Flavor is pitting again. So this will drop Flavor back to 14th, more than likely.
Maybe for some damage? Yeah, there was some damage on the nose.
Schumacher, on the other hand, the Ferrari, is sticking with it, despite the wing damage that he obviously has. But right now, for Schumacher, it's just a matter as he's got to stay in the points paying position. And look at this. The Alfa Romeos of Dave and Collie Boy, they are recovering and are in position to bring home great points paying positions. And look at Boothie. He is in 4th right now. This entire race has been completely turned upside down. And Mantic Meerkat, who served a qualifying ban, started near the back of the grid, might be able to bring home a podium, and paging Dr. Phil, who got crashed out in qualifying Q1, might be able to walk out here with a win. The ultimate redemption for him if he can make it happen. Safety car officially coming in this lap. So there's the word. Zola and Flavor not close enough to really gain any more positions, so they're not going to be fighting for points.
I wouldn't really count on Mantic Meerkat being on the podium if Dr. Phil, Boothie, and Dave are within a 3-second window of him. Or even Jay LeBen, for that matter. Our podium might be our actual 3rd, 4th, and 5th driver on the grid, if they can keep pace with Jay LeBen and Mantic Meerkat.
All right, Jalebin bunches up the field once again. Green flag out of the final corner. And Jalebin got a great start. He did not bounce up the field nearly as much this time. Boothie is right there behind Dr. Phil, as Phil did not have a great start there. Oh! Jalebin spins right in front of the McLaren. He hits the McLaren! And now here comes Boothie on Dr. Phil. Here comes Dave! Dave is in the podium positions now! And Dr. Phil is in 2nd, trying to run down. Here comes Boothie now on Dave, side by side for 3rd. So Meerkat now needs to outrun Dr. Phil by 3 seconds in these final 2 laps. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. All right, Plastic Glove coming to the party. Just stand by, Plastic Glove. We'll interview you after this race. Golmaneer's had an instant. He falls out of the points-paying positions now. Dr. Phil staying within a second of Meerkat. He just needs to be within 3 seconds of the leading McLaren. And he'll bring home his first win in X3 in just his 2nd start. Zola has a time penalty. Snake gets by Davis. Davis had an instant. Red Bull around. That's Zola, who's just had a spin. White flag in the air as Meerkat will come to take the white flag. But it is Dr. Phil who is in contention for this win. Boothie might be able to come home 2nd, and Dave might be able to come home 3rd.
Alright, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Just hold on, Love, and we'll get to you after this is over.
No worries.
Schumacher is in 7th. He's gone by Collie Boy. Collie Boy dumps him! And Schumacher gets hit by a Mercedes as well! Schumacher still got to come home in the points, but he's been involved in multiple accidents in these final 10 laps. Phil, within half a second of Meerkat. Boothie is going to likely walk home with a podium finish. And Snake is trying to hold off Dave. Dave fighting for what might be a 4th place finish himself. Schumacher right behind Jalebin. He doesn't have DRS to get by him. He needs to just be smarter. But again, Jalebin has time penalty. Schumacher does not, so he doesn't have to make this position up. Schumacher will come home 6th in the end, irregardless. At the front, Meerkat is now over a second ahead of Dr. Phil. That's not going to be enough. Both first and second are completely out of ERS. Fratters, Jalebin, lost positions now. Schumacher goes up into sixth. Oh, well, what in the world? Mercedes to the inside, Schumacher, that's Fratters! It's not over yet! Fratters is gonna steal sixth from Schumacher at the end! And in the end, Dr. Phil is gonna win! But look at this crazy fight! It's gonna be Fratters! No, it's gonna be Snake, Schumacher, Goldenator, Mercedes, Agony, Fratters, Jalebin, Boy, Flavor, Zola, and Imperium! And in the end, Zola gets fastest lap point, and it is paging Dr. Phil, who will take home the victory, and Booty comes home second with Meerkat in third. What in the devil kind of race was that?
I really do be out of words from what I've just saw. I wasn't talking much because trying to digest all of that information, but boy was that hectic.
I cannot believe what just happened there. I really can't. All right, Plastic Love, go ahead and make sure your audio is included. What happened there that took you out of that race with Herbago?
I mean, what didn't happen? The standards are just terrible. I made my way up all from sixth. I made an accident, came back to sixth again, and then when they went 4 wide turn 1, I just kept my distance and Herbago spun me. And then coming back onto a lap when I catched back up to him, me and him were like side by side, and then he just swerves right left into me, and I hit the barrier. So not much to say. And then he sucks when you do good and you get taken out by other people 3 times. So it was not a fun race, that's for sure.
Well, you definitely made the best of it, mate. It's a shame you weren't able to properly finish, but good job at least with the performance you did show. Do you think you can recover next week?
Yeah, if Herbago doesn't spin me this time, that's for sure.
All right, well, hopefully things go better for you in the future, mate. Shame to see you taken out like that. All right, well, coming into the party right now is Extra Boothie. I forgot that Dr. Phil does not have a mic, I'm sorry to say, but congratulations, Dr. Phil, for winning in just your second start. But I want to talk with you, Boothie. Second place finish. How in the world did you do that, Boothie? Make sure your audio is included. Boothie, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah, I hear you. Just kind of speak up a bit because you're really, really faint and distant.
Better.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, it was mainly once I got past Fradders, it was mainly stay out of trouble. And then I think it was the horse crashed into the pit lane. And so I thought, I'll pit then. And then just kept out of everyone's way, really.
All right, a podium finish for you here in XRLX3. Without a doubt, your best finish. Do you think a win might be in the cards for you sometime soon?
Seems unlikely. I mean, it pretty much depends on how much chaos everyone else gets into.
All right, well, either way, Boothie, great job. Potential driver of the day, if not for the man who came home in third, Mantic Meerkat. Meerkat, go ahead, include your audio. Coming from last all the way up through the field, and you came home in a podium position that will give McLaren back the lead in the Manufacturers Championship. But what do you have to say about that run today, mate? Anything to say at all about either of those final restarts? You kind of were slamming wheels with just about every single manufacturer on the grid there in those final 10 laps. All right. Well, either way, podium drive here. Not quite a win, but podium drive. Next week's going to be a little bit more traditional circuit. What are you anticipating for the McLaren team there? Oh, you're right. 2-week break. But in 2 weeks, what do you think you'll be able to bring home for the team? Meerkat, are you still there? Yeah. So next race, more traditional circuit. What do you think you can bring home? All right, great job on your drive there, recovering from that qualifying ban with the podium position. Great drive, good bringing it home for the McLaren boys. And now I want to talk with our points leader, Schumacher SS7, very briefly. Well, I've got good news for you, so I do want to hear what you want to say about this, though. Despite everything that happened, you're actually going to massively extend your points lead. Significantly extended.
Should have been a win if incidents didn't happen. People didn't. Well, I'm not going to say, but if stuff didn't happen, I was going to win this race or come second at least, and then got how do I word this? Got put in a wall. There you go. I put it like that.
All right. Well, either way, you extend your points lead, and you're coming up to a track that you've said before you feel moderately confident in. Do you think you can lock up this championship maybe even 2 races early now, because you now have more than 2 race points advantage in the title fight?
How do I say this? I'm not going to say what I want to say, but let's see, man.
All right. Well, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Really bizarre race. There's a reason why those of us here in the States, well, at least amongst my racing group, we call Monza Italian Talladega, and you saw it there. For those of you who want to see more running at Italian Talladega, though, stay with us, because in about an hour's time, it will be the same duo, me and PZ French Fry Man, covering the X2 race. So, going to double up here.
Oh, yeah. Back in the booth and already doing double duty.
Yeah. But until that time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, joined by PZ French Fry Man. PZ, it's been great to have you back here. And thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and goodbye.